Hey, I'm David Viner. You may know me from designing some of your favorite action figures, some of your favorite Marvel action figures, or some of your favorite figures just for the hell of it. But I'm telling you right now, your childhood is trash if you don't know anything about the film Event Horizon.
Welcome to Your Childhood Was Trash, the podcast where we explore the pop culture touchstones that shaped our guests' childhoods. From movies and TV shows to video games and toys, we'll cover it all. My name's Mike, and I'm here with my co-host Nick. And in every episode, we're joined by a special guest who shares their favorite childhood property with us and discusses how it influenced their life. So typically, Dave, the guest picks the topic. You decided to throw us a curveball, and I think you threw me about 5 different topics, and you said,
Nice.
"Surprise me." So let's hope you're interested by the surprise. There are a couple on there that really touched home with me. So tell us why you love Event Horizon so much.
Oh man. Yo, I'm gonna tell you, that movie, man, is one of the most it's one of the most fascinating horror movies, man, set in space. I love Event Horizon. I think it's like it was super underrated. If you remember, it was a lot of hype surrounding, the production of it when it was going to come out. Lawrence Fishburne it was all around like the beginning of the Matrix stuff and all that. So
Yeah.
Yep.
it's kind of, the set obviously was like massive, but I just love the whole idea of like this spaceship, this ship. Like imagine like the Enterprise going to hell and coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like and carrying whatever it wherever it went with it is carrying with it. It's just I always love horror movies. I always love like Amityville horror. I love because I'm the only child, so I love
Okay.
at one point, and I was a latchkey kid, and my mom worked in a casino at night, so it was a lot of nights I was home by myself, and
Yeah.
I would induce fear to myself by like watching Amityville horror or like Psycho
Nice.
or just all that stuff when I was a kid, and so like when the house settles, or actually where we lived at in Atlantic City, it was like all these. It was in the project, so like it was like townhomes, so all the houses were connected. So whenever someone went up the steps, you could hear it in your own house, and also too like where I lived at, like our house got broken into like a lot of times because my mom loved
Jeez.
playing music. She loved playing music, having like the speakers out. Just loved that. So it's just people just broke into our house. Like my house got broken into like 5 times, twice in 1 month, and once by
Oh
next door.
wow.
Yeah. So being home, I was always like just alert, and so by being alert, I would watch spooky movies like to be alert.
Oh
So
jeez.
I just always loved that. So just the idea of like a haunted spaceship was just mind boggling to me. Like I just
Yeah.
immediately of like the Enterprise going to hell
Yeah.
and coming back. What did the ship see?
Yeah.
What corrupted it? What did it bring back? And how is it corrupting everyone else and
Yeah.
bringing everyone else into their own hell? I thought it was dope. It was
Yeah.
dope.
And I mean, the whole like idea of in space, it's claustrophobic already. So that already
Already,
induces the anxiety and the, looking over your shoulder. And then, like you said, you twist it around to there's a supernatural aspect and the, where did the ship really go? They never flat out say it, but you
right?
know it's the worst place that you can possibly be. And all those elements and the
And then,
psychological mind fuck of it is just
yeah,
Right.
that's what
incredible.
I was gonna say. But yeah, no, like I think the most weird part was when it was like at the end. You're like, wait a minute, is it? What's going on? Like I'm now like watching it. I was like, there's gonna be a number 2, right? Like that.
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be. Like I heard, like I read that it was, obviously a bomb when it came out, but then of course it picked back up, like through video and all that other stuff, like anything else that usually happens, and
Right.
So then there was talks of it like being a continuation, like with Baby Bear and the Mama Bear. Remember those characters that the young
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
messed up in the suit and all that? Like it
Yeah.
was supposed to like continue on with them, or even explore like the crew before, like the crew that left
Okay.
all the press signals
Like
and
That'd
a
be
all that.
super
prequel.
cool. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I think it was. I think it just opens up for just so much, and it just looks so evil. Like the whole the mechanism that creates the whole dimensional time thing. It
Yep.
looks so, like it looked like a giant meat grinder, right? And it was
Yeah.
so evil, you know. And it's just really mind boggling, and it also makes you think. Like the more that that science starts to break through all these different barriers and everything. I think around that time too, if and I might be wrong, but I think around that time, their scientists had basically took an atom and like jumped it through time, or they did something with an atom that was like creating this it was this scientific breakthrough, and it just had me thinking like like we think that we see UFOs, but what if it's actually like people from the future, like we're doing things
That'd be
to like
cool. Yeah.
to ourselves that may not necessarily be all that great. Like what are we actually doing? Like are we bending time and space, and what are we penetrating, and is it supposed to be penetrated? You know what I'm saying? So it's just a really cool concept that I just thought was just like so you could just run with it in so many
Yeah.
ways.
What I love is, like you said, it flopped, right? When it came out in '97, it was a bomb. But to this day, how many years later, how often do you see referenced in movies or even in discussions the 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 time portal where Sam Neill takes the paper, folds it in half, and just puts the pencil straight through? That's so iconic.
It's so iconic, right?
I
It's so
messed up that photo.
But like, you see how many times that's kind of been riffed on, and done up, and like particularly now, like everything's it's so funny now too, man. Like for us, we're comic book guys, we're movie guys,
Yeah.
we so we've been reading about the multiverse and all this other stuff for decades. And so
Yep.
it's like it's kind of funny now that these movies, even TV shows, are like talking about multi universes and time travel and all these crossovers. When we're sitting there like, man, this is what we've been talking about forever. I'm glad y'all finally caught up.
Yeah, we're saying like, we told you, we told you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that like even just that notion, even though it's a classic story, like a classic horror house, like a haunted house
Yeah.
story, it was still kind of groundbreaking. You see how it was kind of riffed on and kind of picked apart and taken in various lanes now.
Yeah.
No, it did take that. It did take that classic, like, this is a haunted place, like you said, the Amityville Horror, and like I hadn't actually thought about it in connection to that, but as you're talking, I'm like, that's actually a pretty spot on, comparison. You're like, it's Amityville Horror in space.
Yeah, right.
But no, like that's it. Is like Mike said, it's it's a confined space, and then but then you look out and you're like, there's literally infinite space outside. But what is out there? And it turns
Right.
out,
And what does it do to your mind? Like, remember when he came back? He was like, all like he looked like Hellraiser, like his skin, his flesh was all exposed.
Yeah.
oh
Blood.
yeah,
He's like ripping his eyes out. Yeah.
Oh,
Or,
man,
or,
like
or even,
it turned into a fever dream towards the end. I mean, it was like they just
yeah,
threw
yeah.
everything at the walls.
Or even the
So-
kid in the airlock that tried to just
Yeah.
burst out the airlock and just like his eyes exploding and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
what's going on in there?
And that was like on the tail end of the slasher movies, and I love slasher movies. I love
Yep.
I love Million Ways to Die. I love Face of Death. I love all the ways you could show me how someone can die, particularly in space. And it just had a whole nother twist on gore to me, and horror, and what it is. It was like sophisticated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I love. I want. That's how I want horror to be now. Like, still have that shock value, but have that sophistication of the past. Like they weren't afraid to kind of, take some risks or play with some topics or like
Yep.
twist the ear a little bit.
I mean, even like his wife with the suicide and stuff like that. Like, I wish they
Yeah,
touched more on that and like his backstory, because you kind of just see like, okay, he has his demons with his work and his wife, but they don't expand on that. And that would have been
right.
cool to see more. Just like the doctor, I forget her name, that was losing her son.
Oh yeah,
Her husband
yeah.
was taking her son away. Just like those
Hmm.
parallels between those and
Hmm.
what's going on in their own demons and what's going on with the ship, and just like pulling all that out. I forget who it was, but one of them said like, "I didn't tell anyone this. How does the ship know?" And it's like
Right, right.
Lawrence
that's the
Fishburne.
freaky part. Yeah,
That's when
okay.
Lawrence Fishburne was talking about
They
how
got in the
he
boat.
went to
Yep.
another rescue mission and like basically was like, I I don't have a choice. You guys gotta burn in a fire.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I always loved it. And wasn't like the distress signal like wasn't they saying something like in Latin, but it was backwards and all that stuff or something
Yeah,
like the distress.
Yeah.
And
there was.
that's always like a scary thing. I don't know why how Latin became the horror language, but it's like when you hear it, particularly you think of like The Exorcist and all that other
Yeah. Oh
stuff.
yeah.
They always throw that in there.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
because I've thought about that too. I think they use Latin because it's just such an old language, and it like they're like nobody
Mm.
understands this. Weirdly, my high school offered Latin class for some unknown
Yeah,
reason, but
yeah. I think we
whatever.
were on the tail end. It does
I
sound cool. It's ancient and cool and like
does
scary
it
sounding.
and
Yeah,
sophisticated, right? So I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's part of it too. Is like, all right, these demons or whatever, they're a little bit elevated above us
yeah.
because they're
Right.
sophisticated and they can speak. That's the way I look at it. And it is scary, right? Like, just like The Exorcist, like that
Like
was.
and The Exorcist is one of my favorite movies, man, because it's like it's the deconstruction of Reagan that is the most fascinating thing. To see Reagan go from this nice little girl to
Yeah.
this horrific beast, you know what I'm saying? And just like I love Pazuzu, man. Like I wanted to name my little dog Pazuzu back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Like
You probably wouldn't be able to sleep if you did that.
I know I was scaring myself. Like I mean everything. I mean I love that. I love scaring myself. Like I
Yeah.
always and being the only child, being home alone. Like it's just always I always got a kick out of scaring myself.
Yeah.
because if you scare yourself, who else? Who if you're too busy scaring yourself, nobody has the opportunity to scare you, right?
Hmm.
You're like,
That's
I
a good
do worse
point.
than
Yeah.
myself. Like
And also,
whatever.
it's like when we grew up in an era when like our imaginations really ran away from us, when we were allowed to have our imaginations run away with us, and it's almost like we were all like little Steven Spielbergs. It's just that we didn't have the equipment. We're
Yeah.
doing it in our own head. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah,
some of those anxieties kind of thrusted us into little worlds where you know, when we in our safe space, we're actually utilizing our imagination, and the vehicles are comic books or movies or
Yep.
music, whatever, and we just like really internalize that stuff to the point now. It's just so funny when I look at the world now. It's like, man, you guys are in our heads now. Like you're living in our dream now, you know.
Yeah.
yeah.
And but before it was like just so isolated, like so siloed, and so it's just kind of cool now that we can express it, or we can drop a line from a movie, like or talk about Event Horizon. It's like, yo, we can actually get it.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. I wish they did more stuff like that nowadays. I think the problem is I love horror movies too. Like any time a new horror movie comes out, I don't care what spectrum it's on. If it's haunted house, supernatural, I love watching it. I love to be scared. But my problem with movies nowadays is they're all jump scares. Back then, with Event Horizon, with The Exorcist, with Poltergeist, it
Even the
it was
remake of the Amityville Horror.
it was
Hmm.
unsettling. it made you feel
Right, like they
unsettled,
utilize
and that's
right. You're right. It's almost like how Miles Davis utilized space. It was like that. Like allowing yourself to be immersed in it, where there's very little going on. Like
yeah,
when you watch the original Amityville Horror, there's actually very little that's actually going on. But the thing that's freaking you out is this really happened. Like
yeah,
it's a real house. It's
yeah,
real. So just that anchor alone, even when it wasn't trying to be creepy,
yeah,
it was just creepy. Just the
yeah,
visual of it. The
yeah,
visual of it. So it's like stuff like that. It just allowed like it to be even more scary. Like Alfred Hitchcock was a master of that, and I think there was a lot of masters of that, or at least students of that, like in the 70s or 80s, and they're kind of like unsung. It's kind of viewed as B movies or slash movies and all that, but when you kind of really step back and look at it, like Halloween 2, like John Carpenter was a master of that.
yeah.
Halloween and Halloween 2 and all that. I mean, it's like, man, I mean, it was just so fun just to be in suspense, the psychological part
Yeah.
of it.
Well,
And you're right.
well, the thing is, yeah, back then they let the scenes breathe, right? They let you sit there in silence in the uncomfortable situation. There didn't need to be this high energy music or the tense music and a jump scare. You just thought something was around the corner and you were tensed up for the character, and then they turn the corner and there's nothing there. And then
Right.
the release that tension and those endorphins or whatever, and it's just like that was fucking scary, back then. And it's like now it's like jump scare, where you almost anticipate. Like this, I love the Scream movies for what they are, but none of them are scary to me. I sit there and I'm entertained by them, but it's okay, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, jump
Right.
scare. It's like you're not you're not thrilling me, you're entertaining me, which is a good thing and it's right. But I want to be really like thrilled.
I want it to mess with me a little bit. Like I don't want
Yes.
to like you just brought up the Scream movies. Like Jamie Kennedy narrating what's happening throughout the entire movie was one of the best parts. He's like,
Yeah.
"This is who's gonna die next." Oh no, it was me, right? But
Yeah.
no, it's that we didn't have that time where everything was instant, right? So like Mike just said, it was okay for us to sit in silence and be like, what the fuck's going to happen in 30 seconds? But it
Right.
didn't, and then, it would happen like 4 minutes later when we had let our guard down, and that's where, like, oh shit, right?
Yeah.
That's what we grew up on. And
It's funny. Like that's why I love like Rob Zombie movies. Like I love Devil Rejects and everything. But I love that he infuses that style. Like it's like a documentary where you feel like you're watching something you shouldn't be watching. And
Yeah.
the scene will go a little bit extra. You know what I mean? Or he'll slow it down and just have like you looking at the gore, and it's like,
Yeah. He gets it.
yeah.
yeah. I enjoyed Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh,
Um,
bro, when I worked at Hasbro, I had a PS2 in my office, and I literally played that every day. I had a TV in there, and I just had it on silent, right? So when you come in the office, you can see it. And I never forget one day, Kirkman came through. Robert Kirkman came through, and he was actually talking about doing. Man, oh shit. It was a collaboration. He wanted to pitch a collaboration with him and Hasbro, and he
Yep.
had just got finished doing the zombie Fantastic Four stuff, and he was about to do Walking Dead. I had this giant like zombie Fantastic Four poster on my wall. I had all this zombie shit in my office, and I had the
Nice.
Devil's Reject playing on the TV. And he came by and saw me. He was like, I don't know who you are, but this is the guy. I want him to work on whatever it is I'm doing. Like, I want you to work on my stuff.
Nice. Oh yeah.
it's fair.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, and he went to McFarlane.
Yeah, I guess he, wound up doing well for himself.
Oh yeah. There's no shortage of cash flow for Kirkman.
Yeah, actually, that's what it was. Invincible. He was actually talking about doing the Invincible, like
Oh,
doing
okay.
a toy line. And I was like, man. And at the time, I was like the only one that really knew about it. Me and the engineer, I was like, yo, please Give it to me.
Yeah.
It's always fun being the guy who's like, no, I want to be in on that because nobody else has any clue what's going on. You're like that
Right,
right there.
right, right, right,
That's what you
right,
also
right.
want on it, because then they understand. You know, you don't want someone. I mean, it happens all the time, but you don't want someone that has no idea what the property is about. I mean, look at how many movies we have nowadays where it's just, higher up saying, "I want you to do this," and we get something, out of left
Like,
field and
right.
not the best product.
If you think about it, right, like even though we living in a different time, like I kind of look at it, the same passions was there. It just kind of told a different way or shown a different way. But look how vast of knowledge and skill that Vincent Price had, right? And how he was in everything. And all that allowed him to really be a master at his craft. The fact that he found the beauty in horror,
Yep.
he found the grace in it. He not just
Grace. That's
the
perfect.
corny stuff on it, but the beauty, the elegance of it, where he can express it in this literary way where it's like timeless. He can find the quirkiness in it and but bring out this elegance where it's like, man, like this is the guy, like this is serious. And I just love the fact that just having all these different awareness where you can kind of put into a pot, like whatever you put that passion into, it's going to really show. Like it's really going to emphasize whatever it is that you're involved with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even if you think about it, like go back to Event Horizon. I was doing some research just about it in general, before talking to you, and they cut over 30 minutes of that movie out because that's what the studio wanted.
Yeah,
Imagine what that could have been with an extra 30 minutes in there of
you
probably
know,
suspense and world building.
and that happens all the time when studios get together and they have their focus group and they got to view the product first. And it's like from the business standpoint, I completely understand because
Yes.
you want to meet your bottom line, but at the same time, it's like, why are you even doing this? Because there's an artistic creativity, thing about it where it's like you have to let it go. Like you have to open up the bottle and let the wine breathe. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta let
Yeah.
it be. And so it's funny, like those parts that are taken out, imagine how it could have been, or some of
Yeah.
those movies that could have been, like Scarface. Like Scarface was, in order for it to not be rated X, no, like the whole shower scene when the guy's getting cut up in the shower, like you really don't even see any limbs getting cut. You all you
Yeah.
see is blood being squirted, but you
Yeah.
never see any actual limbs. You never see any of that. But
Yeah.
that had to be dialed back because of that, and that's what we got. But imagine what would have been if
Yeah.
we actually would have saw the gore, or actually like let the story really play out, or get the full length. Imagine what it really would have been.
And it makes you wonder, like, why did they cut it? Because
Right.
Event Horizon's not a long movie. Like it's an hour. It's an hour and 30 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
I watched The Parent Trap from the '60s this past
Mhm.
weekend. Right, that's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Two
Right.
hours and 10 minutes, and
Well,
you cut 30 minutes of Event Horizon. Why?
I think it's almost coming from that era where certain genres or certain things had to be certain lengths or certain way, like music. Like you can't a 4 minute song, it can't be more than 4 minutes. Like
Yeah,
if you think about like Avengers Endgame, that damn sure wouldn't have went down back in the day.
Yeah.
Like there's just no way. And I think because the consensus is no one wants to sit there and watch a space horror movie for that long. Whereas it's almost like it's these self-fulfilling prophecies. If you say that no one wants to have that, and you treat it as such, then that's what is going to happen.
Yeah. People get conditioned to it. They get used to it. So when they see a 2 hour movie, their their minds can't handle it. Their bodies can't handle sitting there. But then you get a 3 hour Snyderverse Snyder cut, and everyone loves it,
Or
you know. So
Or or
or
or, or people will go to the movies and watch the entire Star Wars one or the entire
whole
MCU one,
marathons. Oh yeah,
marathons in a theater. You know what I'm saying? They will do that. That would
yeah.
drive me crazy.
I actually think that's like one of the best things that's happened in, I'll say, like the past decade, is the fact that they have creeped up, and they seem to be cutting less and less, and I'm like, that's what we wanted. Just give us
Yeah,
the whole thing. Like, let me decide if I want to go see a 2-hour space horror movie. Don't
yeah.
make the decision for me. Stop being a
Right.
dick.
Give us a complete story, not a
Yeah,
confined time limit.
And, and
right.
and speaking of space horror movies, of something that is known but has never been done, I would love, like I to me, the best Batman movie ever made was Batman Dead End. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Which one?
Batman Dead End. It was a
No.
fan-made film by Sandy Collara,
Okay.
and Batman was fighting the Joker. He breaks out of Arkham Asylum, and boom, drops down a Predator, and Batman is fighting the Predator, and then
Ha.
boom,
I
drops down.
think I saw a trailer for this. When
Yeah,
did
and then
this?
it's an alien. Then Batman is fighting the Predators and the aliens.
I
That is
think I saw a trailer for that. Yeah, like,
basically the movie. It looks like a trailer. If you ever get time, look at Batman Dead End. It is the
Oh, for
best
sure.
Batman movie ever. Sandy Collar, he worked on Jurassic Park and all this stuff. He took like basically his money and made this fan film. And it is the lighting, the cape, the guy that plays Batman, he looks like an Alex Ross painting. It's
Oh
okay.
wow,
it actually the whole thing looks like Alex Ross did the storyboard for it. It is
that's pretty
amazing.
cool.
It's amazing. See, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. We supposed to be talking about Event
Nah.
Horizon. We jump all over the
It's
place.
okay.
I gotta be spontaneous.
No, in all fairness, in every episode we've recorded, we get off on a tangent that's loosely related to it, but it's fine. That's what we want. Like, right? We're not like, you got to talk about only this, right? Like, this is what we want people to do. We want
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
want to see how their wheels spin and
Yeah.
follow a path somewhere. Like, I don't know where we're
Yeah.
going half the time, but I'm
Fly.
along for the ride, man.
Yeah, hang on tight. But yeah, I mean that's definitely something I'll have to check out. And I mean, even still, like going back to the whole loose horror thing, I guess I don't know if you call it horror, but like I love the Predator movies, the Alien movies, like specifically Predator One and Aliens, like all that stuff. And that's the same thing as Event Horizon. See, tying it back. One thing that made the Alien franchise so good is the outer space claustrophobic nature of it. You know,
Right.
Ripley being stuck in the spaceship with the alien running around. That's creepy because there's nowhere to go.
Right.
You know,
Right.
You're limited. Like, even if you're trying really, really hard, you're still limited.
yeah.
Right.
A haunted ship,
I'm getting some really strange readings in here.
a missing crew,
This place is a tomb.
DJ, where are you?
and infinite evil.
This ship has been beyond the boundaries of our universe. Who knows what it's brought back with it?
Vacate! I want off this ship.
You can't leave. She won't let you.
Event Horizon. Rated R.
Event Horizon, it is a niche thing in its own right,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's sci-fi, it's horror, it's like you said, it's got Lawrence Fishburne via The Matrix. It's got Lucius
Sam
Malfoy
Neill.
before he became Lucius Malfoy.
Right.
Yeah, you got Dr. Grant in space. You got
To me, it's shot really, really well.
it was.
I mean, like it really. I think it's something that I would love to see it. Like now, I love how movies or like or just how anything is turned into more like series now as opposed to movies.
Like a mini series, like
Miniseries.
a 6-episode mini series. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you can really flesh it out, and really give a rhyme and a reason to like the distress, what really happened, from different angles, right? And really show that, and just how hell is just like everyone was in their own, purgatory.
Yeah, they all had that, and I think that's what it was. Is they were all fighting their own internal demons,
Yeah.
and that's what was like fighting each other about it. They were like,
not after what you said, I want a prequel so bad. I want to see the first crew. I want to see that ship go to hell, and I want them to explore hell. Kind of like the most like the quantum realm, right? But no, I want to explore hell. Give me 20 minutes on the ship, getting everything going, launch into space, and then just hell.
Because
show me that.
Because what it's so vast, and that's the thing. Like when you just think about the universe, man, it's like a brain, right? It's like millions, billions of neurons, but it's like all these different aspects of the universe. And once we leave the confines of Earth, it's like space is just a hellish ass fucking place, man. It is clearly not a place for humans. We're not equipped for it. We're just.
Our brains can't even understand it. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, we can't even comprehend. We can't even comprehend the things that happens, or what those things what it does to us physically, mentally. Like going to different, like all we know as humans is going to the moon. Some would agree, not right. But it's like as far as that's all we really know. But going beyond that, how does that affect us? Our physicality, like our mental, like how do we deal with the like space madness, right? Like, is that a real thing? And what will that do to the crew? And to me, that's just a fascinating thing to delve into. And that's just
because if you have like 7 people going through space madness.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like the 7, like the circles of hell, the 7 the pillars, and like you can actually have that, you know what I mean, and be like part of the just these different facets of what these guys are going through. I think it could be super cool.
That'd be awesome, like to see what happened. I mean, because even when they decode the message that was left, like those sounds were freaky. Like whatever the noises
they were going through.
Yeah, and then it showed a brief clip of like the crew tearing each other limb from limb and stuff like that. And it's like, I want to explore that. Because obviously before they got to that point, they had to have figured something out, tried to save themselves, do something. Like, I want to see that story of their struggles, because their struggles was way more intense than what we saw in Event Horizon.
Right. Like, imagine if they were going into like the afterlife and shit. And they were like, it was known that once they got into this, they were not supposed to be here and shit. So it's like, we're going to fuck you up so you never come back here. We're going to see.
This is your lesson. Don't do this again. And
right.
Then you got Sam Neill, who's like, all right, so what if we try again?
Yeah. Right. I mean, this
is my baby.
It'd be like the reverse of the Voyager probe, right? Instead of the Voyager probe, like going out and sending a signal like, hey, we're here, we're human, let's talk. They're sending this code so you never come back here. So you never even attempt to do this. And we demonstrate that in various ways. Like, that would be so nuts.
It would be. I mean, in all fairness, though, it took, like 20 years to get Prometheus for Alien. So, I mean...
Oh, my God.
Now the reality is, like, you get somebody to play a young Lawrence Fishburne, and they go, you could, like, you explore that and how, he had to, like, you could tell the story about how he had to basically be like, all right, go die in a fire, I gotta go. Or you got, like, you could start telling the story, like they filled in the holes with Star Wars. Like, they were like, all right, we'll give you Obi-Wan, and we'll give you Solo, and we'll give you Rogue One. Like, they could fill in those holes for Event Horizon.
To me, Prometheus is a good example. And there's no movie that frustrates me more because it from when we first saw the space jockey, it was like, what the hell is that? What is that? Right?
Dr.
And
Manhattan.
it was so much built up to it, and it was
Yeah.
so much that could have been done, and I felt like it took me to a point where it was, and then it let me off. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't.
Yes.
Like it was there. It had all the elements of like answering that riddle for me, but then it didn't do it, and it kind of got.
That's exactly how I felt.
And that's like with Event Horizon, just take Prometheus, learn from the mistakes of Prometheus, and build on that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
no,
I always like movies that explore our humanity.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, Prometheus, even if it's an Aliens prequel, even though they claimed till they were blue in the face that it wasn't, until it aired, obviously. I didn't like the answers that it gave. It was a cop out, Like I get that the whaling company is looking for the existence, and they find the engineers, and they just look like us, and one of them comes to Earth and commits suicide, and then we have humans. It's like, it's just a cop out. I didn't that totally killed it for me.
and I want to love Prometheus. I mean, I do. I love it, and it disappoints me at the same time. It's like I get there and I'm like, I'm not there. It's
So
anticlimactic.
close yet so far.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
So
would you rather
close.
turn on? Would you rather turn on? Was it Requiem?
Requiem for a Dream?
No. What was it? No,
I was like,
Resurrection. Alien Resurrection. Is that the one?
Oh,
Like the fifth one or whatever. That was like terrible, beyond terrible.
Yeah, man. Oh.
we're not gonna talk about that one.
Yeah, we don't talk about
Like,
that
there's
one.
some things you're like, yeah, I acknowledge that exists in the world.
Mhm.
And that's
So something else.
that's the baffling thing, right? Like Evil Dead was bombed when it came out, and it had
Yep.
a huge cult following. Where we just had a TV show about it. X amount of movies in a TV show. They keep making Predator movies. They keep making Alien movies, and some are okay, some are terrible. We can't get another Event Horizon, just one, prequel
right.
or sequel. Because again, they supposedly save them. They kind of give you that, like, just kidding, with when she's like waking up from the stasis
She's doing
pod.
the same thing,
Oh, right.
Yeah. So we have options. We have two clearly defined options. Just pick one, give it to us.
Yeah, man. It's funny because on one hand, it's like I can't stand the remakes and the reboots. Like I can't stand it because to me it chokes out the ability to have a whole new story, a whole new IP, like a whole new
Yep.
Star Wars, something totally different. You know, or it's like, man, don't give us something so beloved or immediate. Like give us something that is totally different and flip it, like Blade. Like no one. One of the things that one of the reasons why people love Blade because it was nothing like the original character. It was like kind of skeleton, like a skeleton, like little bits and pieces of it, but it was told in such a nuanced way, and it was sophisticated and told with some seriousness. And it's like, but also too, people weren't so attached to it already. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was almost a whole new thing. To me, it's like, man, it's so many remakes and reboots that when I see it, it instantly like takes me out. It just takes me out of it. It's like, give me something. Either give me like something like your Event Horizon, but stay true to it, but also like give it some really nice, draping around it. You know what I'm saying? Give it some newness, like and make it a series or something.
Like you said, the miniseries.
That'd be pretty
Like
cool.
I could totally see like a 6-episode miniseries about how Event Horizon gets. You see Sam Neill come, talking about how he creates the hole, and then you see the episode, like it kind of leads up to a certain part, or you have, you know, the miniseries, like I said, the miniseries with of like how, you know, what was it, Lewis and Clark, that ship becomes like the primary like searching ship, right? You know, stuff like that. Or heck, even like we're talking about a 6 episode like sequel. I would even be okay if they did like a 6 or 8 episode, like, don't cut that shit out, but like make it like it's a retelling of the story, because I can get behind a retelling of a story as opposed to now we're just rebooting it. You know, like if
Yeah.
as long as they expand on it and they don't make it worse. I think
Right.
that's the problem, is that they're like, I reboot it, and it's like, that
Mhm.
was worse than the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you
Or,
doing that?
like treat it almost like I love American Horror Story, right? Like I love how American Horror Story would take these tropes and they would turn them, twist them. You know what I mean? It's like even do the same thing with Event Horizon. Like it's a classic horror movie, a horror house movie. Kind
Yeah.
of take the classic tropes of horror and suspense and mystery and turning his ear and apply it to each episode, so it's like a different aspect of hell. Like that would be so
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Even like that, like you said, the 7 layers of hell. 8 episode series. The first one introduces the Event Horizon, the ship, the technology, how they're going to use it, and then each episode afterwards, the next 7 episodes, is a different layer of hell that the crew and the ship is going through. That'd be brilliant. That'd be amazing.
Because once they
We
punch,
figured it out, guys.
I know. Because I mean, you think about it. Once they fold the universe and punch through, you know, it's more than just like, you know, it's like what's happening as it's punching through. You know what I'm saying? And what's being caused. It's like, man, like so many things could be going on as that is happening, where it could be so fun, so visually fun. Like to me, and that's another thing about the movie. It's visually a dope movie.
Yeah.
It
Like,
is,
I mean,
especially
like,
for '97.
yeah, I mean, like, and I was about to touch on that. Like, it was shot right, it's filmed right. The film that is used, but I mean, it just looks like a really nice, like, and the sets are like real sets.
Yeah, it was before CGI took over.
Like, it was like
So the sets are set.
it's like the last of that generation.
Like, yeah, exactly. The sets are sets. You know, it took a lot more effort and time to do those things than it would if you just did a green screen. You know, and it was like, it still looks really good.
Still looks
Like
really good.
it looks really good, and it still holds up, honestly, because it was done. And I think those things that kind of use the real thing as opposed to like digitizing everything, they hold up better.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Star Wars, like the first 3 Star Wars movies that came out, like it was an entire soundstage with freaking minifigures, right?
Yep.
And then they were like,
there's a charm to it.
yeah, and then like it's for like the first trilogy or whatever you want to do it. The next ones, it was like green screen. It was like,
Yep.
you know, it's this entire warehouse, or it's like it's like, you know, soundstage 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's funny. You know, I was looking at Superman 1 and 2, and like, no other film looks like that, man. It's like when you actually see the guy flying, you see a bus being thrown at him, and it's not any CGI. And I was watching that right after watching Quantum Mania, and I'm like, I wish MODOK. I really wish MODOK wouldn't have been a huge prosthetic, you know, thing, and not a CGI. You know what I'm saying? Like, make it an actual, like, you know, a giant prosthetic animatronic piece. You know what I'm
big
saying?
fucking head.
Yeah. I mean, like Jaws, you know, like
Yeah.
Jaws, or like, you know, like any other creature that was done back in the day, like Man Thing. Like Man Thing was a prosthetic. So it's like, man, like a MODOK should have been like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and like treat it like a. I really wish that it would have went almost to the horror side, like kind of flipped it a little bit, like really show that this like the realm that they're in is crazy messed up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, kind of like, especially since they're already kind of leaning and going there, like kind of introduce that a little bit, like
Yeah.
how
I was gonna say that was one of
stop
my
playing
favorite
safe
parts
with
of
that.
multiverse. Like the multiverse of madness is how they went a little bit farther than like any of the Marvel movies did, because they showed you that it's a fucking trippy ass place.
I mean, as widely as it was hated, one of my favorite superhero movies, whatever you want to call it, I love the New Mutants because of what they were trying to do with it. Because they're making a hotbox, horror movie, again, claustrophobic and closed. But same thing. The studio said, nope, we're gonna hash this, just change that, all this other stuff. And it got delayed by like 5 years, something like that, till it came out and finally landed on streaming or whatever. And I just imagine what that could have been if the director was given his full creative vision.
Man. To New Mutants. Did you guys watch Legion that was on FX? Yo, I mean, that was
No.
really. I had watched a couple episodes. It was really cool, and to me, New Mutants could have really leaned into a whole aspect of Marvel, where it's like you really lean into like what New Mutants was like, about the teenagers, about what they went through, but it wasn't like teen poppy shit. It was like crazy, and like that's what I mean. Introducing the fact that this is when you're getting your powers and you don't know how to control them, or you learn it. It's horrific, because it's not like being a hero already. It's not like which is why, and I always go all over the place. And this is why I love Man of Steel, because to me, I love seeing how these guys become the hero.
Yeah.
Not, you're not a hero right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? You got to go through so many trials and tribulations. You got to go through heartache and pain to understand what it is to actually sacrifice yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why.
Lose your mind in that process.
Yeah. Have you seen Brightburn?
Yes.
Like that was amazing. That's how a real Superman would probably happen, right? This kid with all his powers, he's his sexual frustration, his teenage angst, all that stuff is gonna be like peeping Tom and just killing people that piss him off. Like,
I mean, like, but you think about it. I mean, like there's a reason why laws are in place where you have to be 18 or 21 to be able to be responsible for certain things, right? So imagine you wake up one day, you're 12, 13 years old, and you got the power of being able to obliterate an entire population. I remember there was I can't remember the number. It was an issue of X-Men. It was like the newer volumes, and there was this issue when this kid woke up and his power was manifested, right? And it was some kind of like nuclear power where he basically instantly killed the entire town.
oh jeez.
And Professor X used the cerebral, was like, yo, this kid is like too powerful. Like he's off the charts. And it's like he's already off the charts and it just started. Right. And there's no telling where this can go. The only thing that can be done is like he has to be eliminated. Like Xavier was like, yo, this kid has to die.
Yeah.
So he says, but you don't know this till after the story. So what happens is he sends Wolverine to this kid's house because Wolverine's the only person that can actually go and confront this guy because of his healing factor.
Yeah.
No one,
He's probably the only one who could actually pull the trigger too.
Basically, and Wolverine had to tell him because he wakes up that morning. He wakes up, his house is empty. the town is empty. He's getting ready for school. The kid's getting freaked out and shit. Wolverine comes. He comes with a case of beer, and he's like, "Look, man, I'm here. I'm just here to tell you that you know, you're a mutant. You know, your power. You just got your powers. Like that's the good part. The bad part is that
Oh, Jesus.
you just basically killed everyone in this town,
Yeah.
and your powers are increasing. So by this time, 24 hours, you'll probably kill everyone in this on the eastern seaboard."
Wow.
So Wolverine is like, basically, I'm here to kill you, but I want you to at least have a beer. I want you to at least understand what it is to have a beer. And the kid is like freaking out, and he's like crying and shit. He's like, "Yo, I'm telling you, like, your parents are dead. Everybody you know is gone. They're dead. I mean, yo, this is it. I don't want to do this, but I have to do this." And
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
it's so to put that spin on being a teenage person acquiring your powers, because we think that it's all happy-go-lucky. Yeah, I want to fly, or I want to turn invisible, or I want X-ray vision. But like
Yeah.
in Man of Steel, you saw when Clark's power started to emerge, he was fucking freaking out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when someone when they try to kill his mom, he really blacked the fuck out. Which is why I loved it, because it was Kal-El. It was Kal-El becoming trying to understand who he is, understand who Clark is, understand who Kal-El is, and then
Yeah.
he has all these powers, and he has no idea what it is to be Superman yet. He has
Yeah.
no fucking clue.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't just a superhero movie. It was a coming of age story.
Right. He hasn't saved the cat from the tree yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that. He's been thrusted into a whole bunch of like, what the hell is going on? I have to hide myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to find myself. And that is who we are, and particularly males, we all go on our journey where we either have to leave the house, graduate school, graduate college, get a kid, or whatever it is the case may be. We have to step out and take our hero's journey, and it's scary as hell. You know, we can have guidance, but often than not, we don't. You know,
Yeah.
there's no blueprint to it. And to me, that is like when you show that true story, that true path, you can touch on the true aspects of horror or suspense or strength or comedy or whatever it is. You really touch on that because you touch on the human elements,
Yeah.
what it is of the unknown.
Yeah. It's that humanity and the honesty that
Wow.
that comes out of that. That's poetic.
Which is why when Star Wars starts off, and I'm talking about A New Hope, and Luke is standing over there, you know, looking at over the horizon and shit. I mean, how many times have you done that? When you stood there, like in either in the mirror or had to take a breather and went to the beach, it's like, yo, man, what am I going to do with my life from right now?
Yep.
What am I
Did that
gonna
a lot.
do?
I'm like, I don't know how.
But
I don't know.
then it's like the moment you ask yourself that, that's when the journey begins. It may not begin in the time frame that you want it to, but that's when the journey really begins, because that's when once you ask yourself, that's when you seek the answer.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it's okay to have another journey begin once you get to a point in that one.
Right. Which is why, you know, again, jumping around, even though it's still a space theme, which is why I love Luke Skywalker, man. Like Luke at his purest form is us. You know what I'm saying? It's just a guy, man. Like I can relate to it because I grew up, man, and trying to figure out who my father was. You know, and it wasn't until after now I understand who he is. You know, but I had to go through this whole journey of self-discovery and then
Yeah.
finding out who I was and finding out who he was, like Luke did, and finding out he had a sister, and finding out that he's part of this legacy, finding out that he's not just this, you know, weird old kid on the planet alone. He's got, you know, really cool friends now that's helping him out. He turns to a Jedi master by an 800-year-old thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just all these things wind up happening. From the
And
moment he sits there and be like, "Yo, what I'm gonna do from here on out? Like, what's happening?"
he's like, I just don't want to be a farmer anymore.
Yeah,
All right, what if we go the opposite direction and you turn into this
You're a
master
space
swordsman
wizard.
in space? Yeah, and you're gonna talk to a talking frog for the next 7 billion years or
yo, I mean,
whatever.
it's kind of like if you ever want. I mean, and that's a theme. It's like all the right moves. You know, it's like fucking shit. Titanic. It's like, yo, I want to find my place in the world. You know what I'm saying? I want to go out there and be a part of this thing that's out there. You know what I'm saying? And how do I go about doing it? And it's just and then there's like Luke, and he just boom pop right into reality, and that's when it all starts. And
Yeah.
to me, I just love that because we all been there. We have all been there.
Yeah, that's
It's our
perfect.
event horizon. We've all had our event
I was gonna
horizon.
say, like, that's basically like that's one of the catalysts, like for Lawrence Fishburne's character. Like, he's like, no, 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 blah 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 blah, and then basically, demon ship is like, you fucking set those people on fire, man, and he's like, I didn't do it, I had no choice, and he's like, I gotta live with that choice, I gotta live
Yeah.
with that decision, and then he's all of a sudden he's like, okay, I think I've dealt with that. I'm now dealing with the consequences of those actions. How do I not repeat the same problem over and over again? And that, like, I hate to say it, but that, like, in a very roundabout way, that's how we got here. And talking about that is like that's like an apt description. He went on his own personal journey and figured that out, and like everybody did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For better or worse in that movie. But
Mm-hmm.
that's essentially what happened.
Yeah.
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 Scary as hell, but I mean, it is what it is. But it was like Mike said, it was a mind fuck, and it just messes with your brain because you're like, I don't, you know, I think we're a little far away from this, but could this happen out there? Yeah, probably. I don't know what's out there.
Anything
I
can
barely
happen.
know
It's scary.
I barely know what's in my state, and I've lived here for 35 years.
Like,
And
you guys remember Star Trek Five: The Final Frontier, right? Have you ever saw
Vaguely.
that? Final
Vaguely.
Frontier?
no,
It was basically like, it was they going to the final frontier, but it was one of the things that was a theme of the movie was kind of like confronting your fears, like, confronting your fears and having them be exposed, and then you wound up like kind of like being, kind of going along with this guy who's trying to take over shit. But the thing about it was there was a scene where he's trying to get to Captain Kirk's mind and everything. And Kirk was like, "No, I need my fears. I need my fears. My fears are who I am. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?" And it's like that's kind of like what Lawrence Fishburne was like. Man, I look what I've done. I can't change this, but and now it's all on me. But I have to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it was
right.
it's just it's something about that sacrifice that is just so cool, particularly in that part of the movie, man. Just sacrificing, saying, "I need my fears," but then delving right into those fears at the same time.
Yeah, he didn't just accept them. He's like, all right, I gotta run at
Yeah.
them,
He grew
Yeah,
from
and
it.
then bullet time and like dot. No, I know that was a different movie he was in. Never mind.
He chose the red pill.
it's funny because then after that, the Matrix changed the game.
It
I mean,
did.
like we're kind of like still in the aftermath of the Matrix. If you think about the film and how it's shot and the expectations of it, man, it's like that movie changed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It did. It
They,
did change. It
they,
did change a lot. It's
they
still changing a lot.
created bullet time, and I mean that's something that slowing the movie down just a little bit to show a little bit more details or things going on, and it just adds a whole different layer of cinematography. It's beautiful.
And even that the costuming, and look how many characters wind up looking like those characters from the Matrix, particularly like Neo. Like even Batman, like even Batman wound up having some type of look, like with the buckles and all that, and the like everything, everything wound up looking like that.
Yeah.
It did for a long period of time.
Yeah,
It obviously the buckles make you able to do it. That's what it was. Is the more buckles you have, the slower you could slow down time and dodge those bullets.
like Bullseye. Remember the Daredevil movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Bullseye. I mean, which was underrated. Bullseye, the character, was underrated.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but the look of him, I thought was really, really, pretty cool. But it was all inspired by that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and even now with the like the X-Men movies with Quicksilver, right? Just slowing it down, that bullet time, and it adds
Flash. You seen it right now?
Flash. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
No. Oh man, I love that. I love the Quicksilver scene way more than I should in that X-Men movie.
Because it was so cool to see that.
It was
like to because we know what they can do, but when you actually get to see how it's done and see it through their lens, it's like, oh yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, like you
It's
can
true.
see Cyclops shooting out his optic beam, but do his eyes hurt? Do they get red? Are they bloodshot? Like,
what does it look like? How does he see it? Does he just see the red beam? Does he, can he see through it? I don't know. These are the questions that we have. Marvel, you should answer them.
Is the things Doink made out of orange rock? Like
they already asked that movie. They already asked that previously, man.
Hey, listen,
we never got an answer.
Alicia Masters is one hell of a lady. I'll tell you that. She can,
oh yeah,
she's the only one that can handle the thing.
Yeah. Good for her. Good for her.
Somebody has to.
I mean, when Michael Chiklis plays you, I mean, come on.
And that's another thing, man. It's like, how can you mess up the thing, man? It's like, ugh.
I don't know. There was that Fantastic Four movie from like the late '80s, early '90s. That was pretty not
The Roger
good.
Corman one?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's classic, baby.
Yeah. So is David Hasselhoff being Nick Fury.
Yes.
Oh, those old movies were great.
Marvel came a long way.
Great's a word.
Marvel has come a long, long way.
They have. They have definitely come a long way, and somebody had. But we go that personal journey. That was their journey. They made a bunch of really bad movies, and then like you brought up Blade. Blade was a totally different thing that nobody expected to be good. Spawn in the 2 sequels. I'm still not a really big fan of Blade 2, but I love Blade Trinity for some reason.
And Blade saved them from bankruptcy.
Yeah. But I love Blade 2, man. Blade 2 was just like, oh man. I just love the pace of it, the superhero thrown into a horror movie. Not necessarily like a superhero movie. It's a horror movie, and he's in it and shit. I dug that. I wish it can lean in more into that. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man. Anytime we can get some good horror, man, I love it. I love it.
Right? Yeah. Now it's all on fake real stories about hauntings and stuff like that. I think we got past that. That was a big thing for like 2010 to 2020.
Yeah.
It was like the haunting of something somewhere, and it was kind of like I didn't hate them because it was more of like that drawn out thing, but it had the jump scares. But you got all sorts of different kinds, like so it's got its everybody's got its own niche in that aspect though.
Yeah.
But
There's some pretty dope, like, good like international movies, man, that can be adapted as horror and all that stuff. Like, and I think like that's another aspect of where you can go. Like going like the Korean films, French films. Like there's some really cool stuff out there. That is pretty like intriguing. You know.
what was I know I never actually got around to watching it, but there was that movie Parasite that came out a couple years ago that
Yeah.
seemed to mess with a lot of people.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So it's and then and if you to me if you set any horror film in Prague for some reason it's like you're gonna be able to pull it off. Prague just has that look where some creepy stuff goes on over there.
I think that's basic. It's basically,
But
yeah.
but also too, like there's a lot of other stories that can be told. Like for instance, like when I was a kid growing up in Jersey, like we had like the Jersey Devil. You heard about the Chupacabra, like from Spanish lore and all that stuff. So it's like so many different aspects, man, that could be tapped into. That I would love for the filmmakers to really kind of explore, like you said, not necessarily rely on the jump scares, and get more into like the psychological, like get into the mind and or like the the even the fun aspect of having shit floating around like back in the day, like some of those old movies, man, when you see Bela Lugosi and all that, Lon Chaney, like they're really, really good, man.
Yeah.
They're really good.
I mean, the ones that I always liked were I Want to Be Unsettled, like I said, where I'm going to bed afterwards and I'm putting the covers over my head because anything that's out there, that cover is going to protect me. I'm not feeling normal. Those are the ones that I always, those
And
are my
what else it
favorites.
is? It's the sound too, like the sound effects and the sounds that's used in those old movies.
Yeah.
Those sounds aren't utilized like that anymore. You know what I'm
Nah,
saying? And that's
it's
another thing.
it's because they had to come up with super creative ways to do it,
Mhm.
and that like it just was different, right? Like
Right.
that's it. There wasn't like you had to be so creative. The farther back you go in cinema, you had to be more and more creative because if you wanted to pull off something that was going to end up being timeless or whatever, you had to put a lot of time and effort and thought into some of that stuff.
Mhm.
And like you said, in like those old horror movies, it just ends up being some really good stuff because you're like, how did you even freaking come up with that, man? Like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Do you
Like, even
guys
like,
do you guys prefer horror movies that are set in present day or like set in a certain time period?
probably time
Like,
period, I'd say.
like to me, would it seem more creepy when you see a horror movie that's set like in the 70s,
Yeah,
like right
probably.
now, as opposed to like modern time, or like say like in the
Yeah, because I feel
50s?
like with like modern technology, it ruins a lot with like the
Because
outcome.
everybody's everywhere all at once. Not to be confused with that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a different thing.
Yes,
But that's it.
so if
It's
I want to be scared or
different.
unsettled, I want old like 70s, right? But then like I mentioned, I also like being entertained. So one of my favorite scary movies, I quote a favorite, but I should say scary movies. I love Happy Death Day. It's
Mm.
stupid, it's fun, it doesn't scare me at all, but it falls in the horror thriller genre. That I want modern times, that's fine. But if I am to believe that things are going to happen and to be unsettled, I want that the 70s. Again, it goes back to the whole like claustrophobia thing, right? We're back in the 70s and the 80s. Not everyone didn't have cell phones. There wasn't cameras at every street corner.
Right.
It's still that solidarity that the characters are going through that make it more impactful, more risk
Also,
factor.
also blissful ignorance, man. Like,
Yep.
like think about that. Like people make the jokes, right? And it's like, yeah, no, you literally got on your bike after school or whatever, and you disappeared for 6 hours, and nobody knew where you were,
Yeah.
Right.
right? Like, I I have a 10-year-old, and I tell him all the time, I'm like, the '90s were a crazy time, man. Like stuff, like nobody cared, like, and that was like the end of it, right? Like you go farther back, and it's just like less and less technology, so it's less tracked. Nobody knew where anybody was.
There used to be
Like,
commercials. Remember, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids
Yeah,
are?
you know
Like,
your kids
they used to
are.
remind
No,
you, hey, check on your kids.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
oh
those are
shit,
good
my kid
things.
didn't come home.
Yeah.
Like one of my relatives, he's got crazy stories because he's older, so he got crazy stories how he would ride his bike like 2 towns away and come back sometime. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. Right? So I think it actually would be. I think it's actually the farther back you go, the better it is. You either got to go farther back, or you got to go like Event Horizon did into the future, because the future is totally unknown, right? But we have a somewhat grasp on things, 2000, like in the past 25 years, like we've got that grasp on things and where things are and everything like that. But you got to go back where nothing was tracked, or you go so far into the future where anything is possible. That's it. Like those. I think for me, those are the two. Otherwise, you're looking at kind of like hostile type stuff, where where it's like, yeah, you're in a foreign country and you got lured in by a pretty chick, and now your fingernails are being ripped off. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like that's the current stuff. Like it, everything's everywhere. Like I said.
What about you?
So for me, to answer your question,
What about you? Old or new? For time frame.
I love the old time period. Like if it's set like in the 70s or 60s, because of the limitations, right? And also what was going on around those time periods, like the missing persons, or like cults were a big thing. Son of Sam, like abductions, weird murders.
Unsolved Mysteries was creepy as hell when I was a kid.
Yo, for real, man. Like if you watch some of the old, like from 1970 to like 1978, 79. If you watch like some of those old like news broadcasts, some of it like some strange shit was happening. And it's like there's stories within that. And there's some like for instance, like cocaine the cocaine bear, right? Like even that was like a real thing where the dude woke up one morning and had this body in his front lawn of some guy who paratrooped out of a plane. And he was heavily armed, got bags of money and drugs. Like, what is this? And it's like the fact that we couldn't talk or transfer news in real time.
Yeah,
So
that's
even
huge.
though something when you heard about the news, but then it also took a life of its own in the gossip sphere. You know what I mean? Like the kids got
a telephone.
Yeah, and it wound up being an even more creepier thing within the neighborhoods amongst like the parents and all that, where it's like, for instance, like Nightmare on Elm Street. One of the brilliant things about that was the fact that it was like a guy who was a child molester, and the parents in the neighborhood wound up killing this dude, right? But it's like you think about it, how scared was the kids of that time by their parents being scared, you know what I mean, or just the unsettling of hearing certain things, being in church and gossiping, being in the supermarket and gossiping, and then you wind up drumming up all these fears when a lot of it is in your head.
Yeah,
To me, like that's the beauty of it, and it is like even with that, like was this man really a child molester? Was he condemned for something that he didn't do? You know what I'm saying? It's wild. So I don't know if you ever saw this movie called Little Children, but to me,
No.
it's almost like the suspense version of Nightmare on Elm Street, almost like a suspenseful prequel to Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's actually
Okay.
played. It's actually played by the same dude who wound up playing Freddy Krueger in the newer movies. You know,
Oh, Jackie Early.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, he's actually Little Children. He's actually like he comes home from prison. And everyone knows that he was a child molester. You know what I'm saying? But he still has these urges.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a whole other story that's going on. Like, you know, like the parents like, yo, I want to fuck that dude up. You know what I mean? Like, I want to beat his ass. So it's like, but it's causing all this other hysteria in the neighborhood. And that is horrific, man. When you get humans to left up to their own devices without some type of order,
Yeah.
they can evolve into some
I
wild
know.
things,
Yeah.
man.
We're messed up.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're not as violent as we used to be, and that says a lot. Like like human society is not as violent as it once was.
Yeah.
So can you imagine how violent the world used to be? Like if you were
Oh, yeah.
accused of being a witch, you know, being different, you know, or walking somewhere where you shouldn't have been. Obviously, being a different color or race, but it's like certain things were like super horrific back in the day and ended in violence.
Yeah. If you listen to certain type of music, you're worshiping the devil. Like that was reality, and that
Especially
wasn't
if
that
you
long
spin the
ago.
record backwards, man. You gotta spin the record backwards to hear the hidden message.
Right.
Buy more Ovaltine.
Right. Drink more Ovaltine. That was it. That was the hidden message on every record.
Drink Ovaltine, like all the things that mess your head up. And you know what's funny about that stuff? You know what's so funny about that? My first design job, I worked with Spencer Gifts, right? And I loved it because their home office was in my hometown.
Nice.
Oh, really?
So, but it was so crazy that people in my hometown, they were like, you shouldn't work there. I mean, they do the things that I hear that goes on there, the seances, the devil
What?
worship. They really believe that, especially when
That's so good.
especially when Spencer sold the Ouija boards.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Obviously.
That was a big thing. People thought that the place was like evil, like they didn't know what was going on behind closed doors. For me,
They
that
were
was
really just making fart machines.
yeah. I was like, I can't wait to get back there and see what's going on back there.
Yeah. Right. They just make fart machines and a way to sharpen your pencil in a butthole. Like they're not asking for much.
But like the way they describe the way the description of Spencer Gifts was back in the day was like how Halloween 3 is depicted. Like the company that makes those masks and kill all the kids. That was basically how people thought Spencer Gifts was. They thought it was like an evil place that was trying to take over kids' minds and stuff.
Then what did they think about Hot Topic?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, well, see, it was crazy. After that, it became more of a pop culture thing, and that's coming out of obviously like the '90s and parental advisory board on the music, and it was a lot of rebellion coming out of that too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But early on, before that rebellion, there was fear, and it was like,
Oh yeah.
it was massive. It was so crazy what people thought it was. And that plays into the psyche of a lot, which caused weird laws or weird mobs, crowd. Like that's a big thing in Frankenstein. Like the whole story of Frankenstein, he's not the monster; it's the mob of people who are the monsters that out to kill him.
He's a pacifist.
Right?
They were afraid of the unknown, so they were like, "Well, it's not like me. Let me just kill it and figure out whether that was okay later." But since we all killed it, I'm pretty sure. All right, that we all agree that was a bad idea, but we can't go backwards now.
Well, or can they? Because they could just reanimate him, right? Just full circle.
Yeah. But it's so funny. But because of that whole thinking about Spencer's and what people thought, and when I started thinking about it more, it made me love Halloween 3 that much more, and it made it drove home the creepiness of it even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why out of all the Halloweens, I think that one I can watch that one to this day, and maybe Halloween 2, but definitely Halloween 3. And as I'm watching it, I'm getting a little bit creeped the fuck out by it, by that weird sound, that weird jingle,
Oh
and
yeah.
Isn't
the
that the? No, you go.
yeah, that's the one about the witches, you know, and
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that the one that everybody weirdly hates for some reason?
yeah, and which they hate it because originally Halloween was supposed to be an anthology. It was never supposed to be wrapped up all around just Michael Myers. It was supposed to be an anthology, and that was kind of segueing into it being an anthology, like American Horror Story. Like there's multiple, you know, things that goes on in Halloween that is fucking weird,
Yeah.
and these are just two things that just happen. You got this guy that's a killer in the neighborhood that's killing his family, but then you also have this weird this weird corporate conglomerate that is out to basically kill kids. And that is just so crazy, you know. And how they do it, how they break down the sales and marketing of it, the product development of it. It's like, you know, that's how products are developed. Like it was like working in Spencer's, but it's a horror movie. Is and it made me appreciate it even more.
Yeah. That's wild.
That is wild. I I think I have way more questions.
Like if you do yourself a favor, one night on a Friday night or Saturday night, you know, tuck the kids away, tuck the whole family away, get high, get drunk, smoke a joint, get drunk, whatever you gotta do. Pop in Halloween 3 and sit back and let yourself just go. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, you will appreciate the weirdness and just the mind fuck that it really is.
That's awesome. It's been a long time since I've seen that one, so I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
I barely remember that. The first one I remember vividly, but
And I
not
love
three.
Rob Zombie's take on it. Rob Zombie's take on it on the first one is like a case study of what happens to a kid when he's severely neglected. You know, like that
Yeah.
is a parent's worst nightmare is to raise a serial killer, right? Because if you unravel, unpack everything, you have to go back to yourself. Like, how did I cause this?
Yeah.
And then in Rob Zombie's version, in the first 20 minutes of the movie, you're like, yo, this kid is destined to fail. Like,
Yep.
he has this weird infatuation with his sister, and his sister's getting boned by this kid that he don't like. It starts off he's killing animals.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And all this while Kiss is playing, and you got that societal thing going on with Kiss, and why you listening to that? His mom has this weird stepdad that he doesn't like, that is obsessed with his stepdaughter. The mom is a stripper. Your friends are infatuated with your mom. They know what she does.
Yeah.
This kid has to go through all of this before he even steps out the door. And the most genius thing about it was he starts popping those candy corns. And the rumor always was you can't eat, like you shouldn't eat a lot of those because it'll make you go crazy. Like on Halloween, you gotta monitor them because the sugar just make you go wild. And he was popping them, popping them, popping them like they were pills. And it was slowly telling this whole tale, like how this kid, because he had no guidance in this home, that he slowly delved into a world of madness, and he wound up off in his
Shit.
family.
Yeah.
And it was just genius. It was so genius how Rob Zombie deconstructed Michael Myers to basically be any kid in America that is neglected.
This is crazy. That whole thing could be a reality. Like there could be a
Absolutely.
kid out there
Yo,
that's
that's
living that
Columbine.
life.
That's
Yeah.
Columbine. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's a kid that ran into a school and shot up the kids. You know, that's when you decide to do something like falling down, when you cannot take it anymore.
Yeah.
When whatever happens, like society has driven you to these points, and it's like, and you've been silently screaming for help, and everyone around you has been ignoring it,
Yeah. Or
and it's
kicking you.
boom, you wind up being the best bat you can be, and like that was how Michael Myers wound up being like this, like a machine of a monster, because like the kid was all he was lovable, like the kid was like he loved his mom, he loved
Yeah.
his sister, and kids are born with a blank slate, and it's like what was put into him was everything to create this monster, and it started from home. and that was
Yeah.
the scary beauty of it, like this, and which is horror. It's a scary elegance about it, like it's that sophistication where underneath our skin is some very nasty, scary stuff.
Yeah.
Blood, vein, guts, ooze, pus. It's nasty. It's nasty. It's Hellraiser. It's nasty.
Oh yeah.
And it's only skin deep. It's only a
Yeah.
thin layer. It's a thin layer. It's like a thin line between love and hate. Between
Not for
between
Sam
that.
Neill. Colin's outside.
Yeah, and then once that's penetrated and it's exposed, that's the beauty of, to me, of horror movie. It's like once it's exposed, what comes out?
Yeah. And I mean the best thing is like you said, it's skin deep and how thin that layer of skin is, right? You don't know, horror movies are reality. You don't know who's dealing with what demons in their life. They could have it completely put together, but dealing with all these demons. And it could be that one day where either someone just says, hey, you good? And that could change everything and lift them up and set them on the right course. Or it could be the guy that bumps into him at the supermarket and just says, get out of my way. And then that just ripped that thin paper layer of skin and just sent them on that path of no return. It's
That's
crazy.
why
It was the fold and the punch there at the end. That's what it was. It was the fold and the punch, and that's it. Right through the skin.
that's all you need, a fold and a punch.
There you go.
But it's funny, like that's why I love like stuff like The Hitcher, like with Rucker Hauer. Like it's like all that was a simple road rage thing, and it wound up slowly rolling into madness, which could really fucking happen.
Yeah.
So when you start thinking about Event Horizon, what scientists are doing, particularly now, it could really happen. Like the things that we're doing, people don't even understand what is being done to our world, to our universe right now, that scientists are unraveling. It's pretty intriguing yet scary stuff.
Yeah. And you don't know, they could hit the right thing and all hell could break loose. They don't know. We don't know.
I was gonna say, Sam Neill didn't even. He was like, "I'm punching a hole. Where are they going? I don't even know."
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know? How did you create a direct path there? What do you mean you don't know?
Listen,
why are you doing this?
You gotta align the 5 symbols, and then the 6th one is your destination, so you know where you're going. They should have taken a note from Stargate, and this would not have happened.
Nice.
Everything's full circle with movies, apparently. We've drawn parallels to Star Wars, to Stargate, to Star Trek. Like, I bet you did not realize how impactful Event Horizon really is, and how us choosing this topic for you was just going to explode like this.
Yeah,
we talked about mental health, social issues.
I love
it all.
I mean, because you think about Event Horizon, really has all of that in it.
Yeah.
It has mental health, social issues, sexual tension. Like it has a lot of stuff in it, man. That is, and again, the beauty of it is putting the mirror right to our faces.
Yeah.
And making you look at yourself and realizing a lot of your problems are you.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah. and oftentimes we create the hell. You know,
Yes.
it like we're the virus.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're like the parasites. You know what I'm saying? And our whole thing is to consume and destroy. You know, so it's kind of like, man, when you start to put it that way, man, it's like,
Yeah, it's scary. You know, you think you're doing good, and then you realize you're doing harm, and it's like you got to step back. You
mhm.
know, the microscopic things that make these gigantic changes and impacts. And
That's why you don't go back in time and step on a bug.
right,
You don't know what's going to happen.
or
And
have
you know,
sex with your mother.
oh Lord, no,
That never happened.
Yeah, almost did. If
Look, Calvin Klein's weird.
listen, if Lorraine had maybe just a little bit more strength, then yeah, Calvin been in all world of hurt.
That's just Futurama right there.
hey,
Where that?
if no one had stopped Luke, no telling what him and Leia would have.
All right, I want to see that fan fiction.
Oh, you know it exists. Don't bring it up.
You know it
Look,
does.
everything's everywhere. Now we're all going to have it popping up on our ads on Facebook and our phones and crap now. Look what you did, Mike.
I think in an alternate storyline, alternate universe, what comes out of Luke and Leia is Baby Yoda. Maybe that's what. That's
All right, I think I figured out. Event Horizon is the ship, and what it does is it goes to the alternate universe. It brings back that thing, and that's why nobody knows what Yoda is. That's it. We figured it out, guys. Crack team.
That's right. Baby Yoda is delivered from hell via the Event Horizon. It's the bastard demon child of Luke and Leia.
Well, I think what Family Guy said it best. He's like, "There's 3 sons and no women on this planet."
What we gonna do, boys? Bottoms up.
Back to the pile. Oh, wait, no, that's South Park.
Jesus. Dave, we kept you way longer than you said we could. I appreciate it. Nick appreciates it.
Man.
This is awesome.
I can speak for myself. I do appreciate it, but I could. I'm glad. Yeah, no. I'm glad everything. I'm glad you're able to stay. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, man. I love it,
man.
Yeah, these tangents were fun.
Yeah.
I
can't wait to see it edited up too. This would be cool.
All right. Well, but before you really have to drop, Dave, why don't you tell everyone what you're doing and where they can find you?
Man, well, you know what? It's so funny you ask what I'm doing. Right now, I got my hands in a lot of things. You know, I'm writing for Toy Collector magazine. Have a section in there called For the Culture, and have a podcast bubbling up and helping guys develop their toy lines and everything. So it's like I have my hand in so many things, doing some mentoring guys along who are developing their own universe, and working with Taboo or the Black Eyed Peas. We're coming up with something that's going to be really, really cool. A whole new character, a whole new indigenous character. It's going to be really, really dope.
Nice.
And it's going to have like all kinds of stuff behind it, action figures and statues and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, man, it's like working on a whole bunch of stuff is now, instead of just staying in one lane, it's like with all the things that I've accumulated over the years, it's like, let's just have fun galvanizing everyone, playing with everyone in the community. Now that we have this whole universal community, is like, I love being able to rope everyone in, tie everyone in together, and get everyone to play, to come up with some new content or some new brands or some new toys or some new stories. Like, hey, let's create the new stuff, So, and
tons of room for new stuff,
and it's done by conversations like this, like having conversations about our loves, our passions, and it's like, man, the things that inspired us, just like what inspired George Lucas and and Francis Ford Coppola and all those guys, and then look what they created. So it's like we can't just keep doing what they've done. We gotta push our passions and our inspirations to come up with something new.
Yeah, innovate.
Right, the new. What are the new Universal horror monsters, or what's the new DC? What's the new Marvel? What's the new Blob? What's the new
What's the
Secret?
new Image? That's
Yeah,
what Image was.
right. Like, give us a new Jason and the Argonauts. Like, give us something new where it's like, man, we can actually, you know, have a whole new generation of wonder, like how we grew up on. It's like I refuse to believe that our generation is the last bastion of to receive all that cool stuff, and we're just left to just regurgitate it. Like, I think we can take it forward, and just continue to push how we get that out there.
There's so many avenues now, and I think that's the best part about. I think that's one of the best things about the technology we have now versus like back in the 70s and 80s, right? We have so many outlets. We have so many things. Toys and stuff aren't the weird guy down the street who in the 70s who watched
Right.
space laser swords and right?
Yeah,
like
it's
everybody, it's everybody, and it's people like yourself who are like facilitating some of that stuff.
Right.
The riffing that we've done, the tangents. You're right. It's where it
Yeah.
comes from, man.
I mean, you got guys now who, are photographers now. You got guys now who have a business for making clothing. Guys who doing stop motion, guys doing animation, doing music. It's like so many different areas now that either the comic books, the toys, or the movies inspired us to branch off and do so many different things. And it's like, to me, it's like I see it like a giant television with a million channels on there now. And it's like, now we can really play with some stuff. Like, why be against something that is like, for instance, like a lot of guys hate AI now and they're so afraid. Well, let's use that as a tool, just like CGI was a tool and people were pissed off about that. Or certain prosthetics, certain makeup practices was a tool. People were pissed off about that. Or filming in color, how people were pissed off about that. And like I mean, you start
Screw you, Judy Garland.
yeah, if you start unraveling certain things, like there's always the purist, right? Why we gotta start having sound in our fucking films?
Why we gotta change things? Well, sometimes change is good.
Yeah, stop being crotchety old men.
like the first love scene in the film, or the first fight scene, the first stunt scene, like all that stuff had to come with risks.
Yeah.
That wound up being the norm. So it's like, why not take what's new and so hated, use it as a tool and expand the toolbox and expand the creative imagination of what's around us.
Yep. Right.
So
you talked about all your products. Can they find you? Do you have are they on your website?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to give you the opportunity to plug it. Like, you do it. We can keep talking. It's up to you. I don't care.
Dave,
right?
Dave just like, yeah, I got stuff going on. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I could be found. David Viner is my handle. David Viner on Facebook. So all my social handles. And it's like, one of the things I also love. I have so many things going on, but I love the suspense of holding it back because, I love that too. Right? That was also the fun part, like the Cracker Jack surprise, or the cereal box surprise, the trailer that's giving you very little information. I love that because then it's like when we drop that fun thing, it's like, man, you really appreciate, everything about it, and so I love it's like being a magician, right? It's like you love to see the reaction of the trick, but you don't want to give up the trick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's okay. Like we want to be fooled. We want to be entertained. Like we want the coin to be pulled from inside of our ear, you know, and they're like, that wasn't there before, but damn, we
There
want,
now.
Maybe
we
get some
want that.
Q-tips.
We want that. We want to be entertained. We want to be scared. So it's like I love being able to at least have that kind of, you know, feeling like what's coming next. You know, it's coming around. Like usually I'll post like something wicked this way comes, and like because something is about to pop. I'm not going to tell you, but trust me, it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. It's going to be something for everyone, and that's what I love to do. Like encompassing all the realms, all the different corners of pop culture, and exploring that and sharing that. You know, I just love that.
Yep,
For sure. That's awesome.
that's why we're here.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
And that, folks, brings us to the end. Thank you for tuning into Your Childhood's Trash. We hope you enjoyed our conversation. If you liked the topic and it brought back some memories, hit the like button and comment letting us know. Don't forget to connect with us on all the socials and check ycwcast.com for any new ventures. See you on the next episode. Same trash time, same trash channel.
It's so funny. I thought you guys were going to say we're going to choose Bionic 6.
That was my number 2, Dave. That was my number 2.
About it.
Are you
We thought
serious?
about it.